It's time for your daily LSU baseball update with Musso at the box. Now, Matt Musso.
Off and running. Welcome in another edition of Musso at the Box, presented by Gauntlet Light Installers. Fired up to have you along for the ride. Fired up to today's show as well. LSU, they get set to open up another 5-game week, their second consecutive 5-game week. That'll get started Tuesday night with North Dakota State, first of 2 at the Bison, and then they'll welcome in North Alabama for a 3-game weekend to close out the pre-conference slate, or to close out the weekend pre-conference slate, I should say. So this is LSU's last full week before they have SEC baseball. So kind of want to take some temperature, where the team stands. What have we learned so far through 3 weeks that we want to see built upon here in the final full week? So we'll do that. And of course, we'll also get you a preview on North Dakota State. Of course, with 5 more games, everyone's going to get the pitching staff. How do they make it work? There's a path to actually do it fairly easy. And we'll kind of run through that as well when we talk about the 2-game set with the Bison, obviously getting all of this started. So smash the like button if you have not already. Get subscribed up on the YouTube channel. Get subscribed to your favorite podcast app. If you have not already, just search Musso at the Box. It's right there. Hit subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Follow me on social media. Those handles scroll on the screen below you. And without any further delay, we will go ahead and get started. So before we dive too deep into North Dakota State, I want to kind of take the step back, look at the first 3 weeks, and kind of what have we learned. Because if you'll remember, man, when we embarked on this journey 3 weeks ago for opening day, that was Valentine's Day, when LSU threw out the first pitch against Purdue Fort Wayne, there were a lot of questions with this LSU team when it came to the mound, when it came to the lineup, and it all centered around you being very, very deep. And okay, when are you going to settle on certain guys? When are you going to know roles? When are those things going to be defined? And let me be perfectly clear. Through 3 weeks, and you sitting here with 1 full week left before conference play, it's not set in stone. There are still questions to be answered. But they've played 12 games. We've seen some good. We've seen some bad. There's been a loss mixed in there. There's been some really gritty, character-defining, toughness-building wins this past weekend. There's been a lot. And while the full answer, right, the final answer may not have been revealed yet, we've certainly gotten some smaller answers along the way. And I think we can all look at this now and go, okay, with 1 full week left, things are a little bit more clear than they were 3 weeks ago. And that goes for the mound and the plate. Let's start with the lineup. LSU went into this knowing, all right, Jared Jones is going to play first base, right? And he's going to hit near the top of your lineup. And Stephen Milam's going to play shortstop, and he's going to start every day. And he's going to hit, somewhere in this lineup. I mean, the only place we haven't seen him actually has been at the top. Curiel is going to play a lot. All right, we're all expecting a big jump from Jake Brown, so you expect him to be in there a lot. But look out for Josh Pearson, Ashton Larson, maybe even Ethan Fry. Those guys are going to platoon right field. And then, the DH spot and where you go from there. Catcher, what's going to happen? Hernandez, Aaron Beatty, Priester. What's the deal there? You kind of went in knowing some things settled. Danny Dickinson's going to play second base. Danny Dickinson's going to play second base every day for LSU, and he's going to be in the lineup. But as you've gone through the early part of this season, I think answers have provided themselves. And while you might not see them immediately right now, because they are still in that pre-conference and you have an opportunity to get some guys some work, when Missouri comes to town here in a little bit more than a week, or 2 weeks, I should say, there is a path right now to look at, okay, this is what LSU should do. And we'll start at the top of the lineup, because one of the things I loved through the first couple weeks was that top 3 of Stanfield, Curiel, and Jones. It just allowed you to do so many different things and put such immediate pressure on the opposition. First inning, right out the gate. And I thought Stanfield did fantastic in that leadoff role. Obviously, Curiel's been great. And obviously, Jared Jones has been Jared Jones. Everybody's really, served their role there. But the change you've seen in recent weeks is that Derek Curiel has moved into that leadoff spot, and he should absolutely stay there. And Jared Jones has moved into the 2-hole, and he should absolutely stay there. Like, I think those things are pretty solidified right now. What I love that they have done, and we've talked about this briefly, is Chris Stanfield down in the 9-hole. Because that allows you to still keep that order of Stanfield, Curiel, Jones that served you so well. It's just at a different time in the game. But what it does is it provides length to the lineup. That makes it really tough to go through because, man, just when you think you're going to get a breather, Stanfield's right there at the bottom and has done a fantastic job turning the lineup over in that position to Curiel, to Jones, just like he would have done if he was leading off the baseball game. And because Curiel has been so remarkable in the leadoff spot, guys on base percentage is .576. Like, it's not enough that Derek Curiel is hitting .432 right now and pacing this team. He's also getting on base damn near 60% of the time. He hits the ball to all fields. Like, he's doing everything that he did in the 2-hole. But now he's doing that in the leadoff spot, so you don't lose, the production that you had from Stanfield there, but you get him still able to hit in front of Curiel. So I love that configuration of the lineup. You've seen Steven Milam move up from the 8-hole, really kind of to the middle of the lineup now, really around 5. I think that's a place he fits very well. And you've seen Dickinson kind of slide into that role protecting Jared Jones, something that I've been asking for and wanting to see really since Dickinson's 7 RBI weekend opening week. And you got to saw it one time in that game. And now you've seen him come through in the spot where teams have intentionally walked Jones and things of that nature. So what I'm getting at here is I'm going to give you a lineup where I think things stand and is LSU's best lineup right now, a week out. Or I should say not a week out, heading into the final week of pre-conference. The other thing I love about Curiel and Jones, 1-2, because a lot of people might ask, why have Jared Jones in the 2-hole? You want him in position to drive in runs. Well, first of all, he is second on the team in RBI right now with 17. So he's still driving in plenty of runs. The answer is he's one of your best hitters on the heat. Curiel's been awesome. Jared Jones is the best offensive player on this baseball team. You want him to have as many at-bats as possible, and he's going to get an extra at-bat normally in the 2-hole. That's why you want Curiel up there at the leadoff spot, too, because he's been awesome. So those two will get a couple extra at-bats. Those will just add up over the course of a weekend and obviously over the course of a season. And if you have your best 2 hitters getting those extra ABs, it makes a lot of sense. LSU did this plenty with Dylan Cruz and Tommy White in 2023. You saw them hit 1-2. And you also saw him hit 3-4 and things of that nature. But 1-2 was a spot you saw, especially later in the year, them really occupy. Think of it similarly to that. It's not the same thing, but that's why. So you figured out the top of your order, and the reason you figured out the top of your order, and in turn, you've been able to really figure out the rest and provide length. Now, again, they're not finished. You're still going to see rotations in at catcher. You're still going to see the rotation in right and at DH. But right now, heading into the final week of pre-conference, I think there are clear leaders at every position for LSU in the lineup. So here's what we'll do. Here's what I'm thinking. In my opinion, so far through 3 weeks that I've seen, this is LSU's best lineup. Their best 9. Not their 9 best, their best 9. Derek Curiel is absolutely part of that, so slot him right there in the leadoff spot. And this isn't necessarily, in order of where they would hit, but just the guys, the 9 guys. So Curiel, yes, and as I said, you can leave him in the leadoff spot. Jared Jones, absolutely, you can leave him in the 2-hole. Chris Stanfield, absolutely, you can leave him in the 9-hole. Stanfield has been awesome offensively, hitting .343. He's got an on base of .489. He has not made an error out in center field. In fact, he has just caught everything. I mean, he has been, brought back memories of the center fielders of old, like, Amatuk, like Stevenson, those guys who just caught everything out there. It didn't matter where it was hit. They were going to get to it. He's next in line of that guy. So, yes, he absolutely belongs. He stays in there. Stephen Milam, of course. Danny Dickinson, of course. And I would love to see him continue to hit behind Jared Jones. So that really leaves your spots. And Michael Braswell. Michael Braswell as well. I know the average still leaves a little bit to be desired at 179. Tanner Reeves really acquitted himself quite nicely when he got the opportunities in Frisco, had a couple of hits in that game on Saturday. But it's Michael Braswell. He's a senior. He's got 3 years of SEC experience. That is your guy. And he's your best defensive option at third base as well. So Braswell is that guy. So that leaves your right field DH and catcher. And we'll start with catcher, and it's Luis Hernandez. And we kind of talked about this last week at one point. Hernandez is the guy there for a lot of the reasons. Braswell is your guy at third. Hernandez is a veteran who has played a lot of college baseball, has over 600 at-bats, all of those things. He has been your best defensive option behind the plate. He's shown off a nice arm throwing runners out, but more importantly, he's kept the ball in front of him the best out of any of your other options. And that's what you need. Now, through the rest of this week and later in the season, you're still going to see Cade Arenby get time. But when it's time for SEC play, Luis Hernandez has to be the guy, and I believe that he will be, to stay in there and start. The interesting thing is Aaron Beatty has caught Ianson each time this season. That is something to note. I don't know if that's a preference for Anthony Ianson. If it is, obviously you keep going with that. I don't know if that's just the day, the way it's fallen in the rotation. They're like, okay, this is a good chance to get Aaron Beatty work. We'll have to monitor that and keep watching, but that is something to note. But for me, it is Luis Hernandez all day long. Would you like a little bit more from the bat? Sure, but he is hitting 269. He's shown the ability to hit some doubles, had 3 hits on Sunday. Like, he feels like he's just going to be a very streaky player. When it's his day at the plate, it's going to be his day at the plate, and he's going to be really well. When it's not, you'll have him in there and hope he's your defense. But he's your best complement of everybody. So Hernandez, definitely a part of that. For me, right field is Jake Brown. And this is twofold because, for one, Brown's hitting 355, which is really good. And honestly, he should be hitting higher than that. But the balls he keeps scalding, and I mean scalding, keep getting caught. I thought Jake Brown against Nebraska and then or against Nebraska twice hit a ball out of the ballpark. And it just didn't. For that yard not being very big up there in Frisco, the ball didn't really feel like it carried very well. Even with the wind blowing out. You really had to get into it to get it out of that park, which was interesting because it wasn't extremely big. But the other reason for me there is Brown is your best. I think he gives you your best defensive outfield. Not to say Josh Pearson and Ashton Larson aren't good defensive outfielders. Of course they are. I mean, one of the things Josh Pearson is known for at LSU is the catch he made against Florida in the championship finals in that first game in 2023. But I think Jake Brown played center field. Like, if you put Brown out there, you have 3 center fielders in your outfield. And, oh, by the way, he's hitting 355. And that is without consistent at-bats. I think Brown needs to be the right fielder. So you go to DH, and that's where I key in Josh Pearson right now. I mean, Josh Pearson is that veteran bat that you would love to have in the lineup going forward. I think he gives you that opportunity there. I'm all for it. Give me more Josh Pearson. The clutch gene, they trust him. He's going to take good at bats. I mean, he's hitting 360, but the on base is 526. That is third on LSU's team. So the at bats have been awesome. He's been hit a bunch of times. He's got 7 walks. He's been great. DH. You have a lefty on the mound. You want to put Fry in there? Okay, fine. But for me, it's Pearson. So that takes care of it. Those are my 9 that I think are LSU's best 9 right now heading into the final week of pre-conference. Curiel, Stanfield, Brown, Braswell, Milam, Dickinson, Jones, Hernandez, and then Pearson at DH. We'll talk pitching here momentarily. Got Lit Light Installers, gotlitlights.com. Get over there, apply for a quote, see if they are right for you. I'm telling you, they're going to be. Because if you need any lighting needs, exterior of your home, Got Lit Lights is the place for you. Work with Derek and his team. See what I tell you about every single day. The great customer service, the great relationship building that is unlike any other place you will work with. You need permanent landscape lighting for your front or backyard. Got Lit Lights has you covered. You're hosting an event, private event lighting, temporary. Got Lit Light has you. They will look at your design, custom cut to fit any lighting desires you have for your party or your event. Come install it. When it's done, take it down and store it, just like they do with the Christmas lights. They just wanted to expand the business so they could find more ways to work with you. Got Lit Light Installers, gotlitlights.com for a quote. Work with Got Lit and tell them you heard it right here on Musso at the Box. Everything looks better when it's lit. All right, pitching, some questions we've answered there. I know, again, a lot of people want to talk about the rotation. They're going to run that rotation out there again for North Alabama. I'm not to the point where I think anything should be changed. I really have the same questions that I've had throughout. Can Cade Anderson give you a little bit more length? I mean, the stuff has been plenty good enough. He's just kind of hit a wall once he's gotten to the sixth inning. Can he get you through a lineup 3 times? If he's going to be your Friday night guy, you're going to need that. And look, you can look at it and say, well, LSU has a lot of pitching depth. Maybe he doesn't need to be that. Okay, maybe, like, I'll hear that argument, but I at least want to see that he has it in him to get you through a lineup 3 times. And so far, through the first 3 weeks of the season, he has not been able to do that. But I'm not to the point where he should lose his spot because, again, the stuff is plenty good enough. Same thing with Anthony Ianson. Anthony Ianson is the only guy in this rotation that has really just proven he can go 80 innings and get outs in a season. So I'm going to give him a little bit longer of the leash. Same thing I want to continue to see from him, though. And we'll repeat this all when we get to the weekend preview. But can he find it a little earlier in the game? He's a guy who 100% gets better as the game goes along, and I love that. That is a mark of a great starting pitcher. That's how you get through a lineup 3 times. But it just needs to start off a little bit better. And then for Chase Shores, you're going to continue to extend him, man. The guy had through 18 1/3 innings. This is what we talked about all offseason. It was going to take time. And I think Chase has actually pitched really, really well. Really, really well. It's just, it hasn't been super clean each time out. And that's just the growing pains and him getting used to the role and things of that nature. Chase Shores will be fine. Guy throws 100 and he's 6'8". Consistency will come with more reps. So I don't think you've really learned anything one way or the other. Now, what you have learned are guys that you absolutely know you're going to be able to count on. And that starts first and foremost with Kason Evans. Kason Evans has filled a much needed role for LSU with Gavin Guidry being out. And he's done fantastic. And now when you get Gavin Guidry back, hopefully this week at some point, and you get him some innings under his belt, you have an opportunity to have one of the most dominant back ends of the bullpen in the entire country. Kason Evans is a dog. He is that dude. William Schmidt is going to pitch extremely valuable innings for this team. Connor Benj is going to pitch extremely valuable innings for this team. And where Connor Benj is intriguing is he's shown you he can pitch twice in a weekend. Kason Evans just showed you that this past week, going Wednesday and then Thursday. That's twice in 3 days, just what you would need on a weekend. Those guys are valuable. That's just 3. Connor Ware, who's been awesome in his 2 starts, is going to factor in, whether it be out of the bullpen or in a starting role somehow, in some way for this team on the weekend. Zach Cowan, same deal. So that's already 5 that we've gone through. And those are the 5 that I really look at and I go, okay, yeah, those guys are going to pitch massively important innings for LSU. Now, you need a few more. Maverick Rizzi looked awesome the first 2 weeks of the season. This last week was rough for him. He is one of the guys I am most intrigued to see back out on the mound a couple different times this week to see if he can kind of get it together again. Because I think that's a guy that they absolutely need. You've seen DJ Primo potentially there in a, matchup role. Jay Johnson told you he wants to get Jaden Newt into the top 10, and I think Jaden Newt's actually pitched very, very well so far in his 4 appearances. It's just been 2 1/3 innings. I'd like to see them get him a little bit more of an extended outing. It's been right there at the end of games that they've been able to bring him in, sometimes even for a hitter. But it's really good stuff. It's a loose, repeatable motion. I think that's a guy really strong. So that's what I want to see over the course of the last few weeks here. Because, again, you know Evans, you know Schmidt, you know Ware, you know Cowan, and you know Benj. You'll get Guidry back, and he's going to factor in there. Can you get a 7th and an 8th guy? And we just went through plenty of guys right there. But those 6, I think you feel really, really good about. And you pair that with your rotation, and right now it looks pretty good for LSU on the mound. We'll see, but that's kind of where I stand with them heading into the final full week of pre-conference play, and it'll start with North Dakota State, a 5-game week. So let's go ahead and dive into the Bison a little bit here. This will be the 3rd meeting all time between LSU and North Dakota State. They played a pair of midweek games a season ago that led into conference play, actually, as well. LSU winning both of those. North Dakota State has played one hell of a schedule so far, gang. I mean, it has been pretty darn brutal. They opened up at Dallas Baptist, got swept there. Then they played 2 games at Lamar, and we know the type of program that Will Davis runs over there. Really good mid-major. They got swept in that 2-game series and actually dominated, run ruled one of the game. They were set to play a 3-gamer with UT Rio Grande Valley. One of the games got canceled. They split a pair of those, and then they spent last weekend in Tuscaloosa and got swept by Alabama. They are 1-9. It has not been good, but they have played a really, really tough schedule up to this point. That being said, they are 1-9. And when you look at this team from a statistical standpoint, there is not much that jumps off the page to be celebrated. Offensively, North Dakota State comes in hitting 197 as a team. They are below the Mendoza line as a team. They have only hit 7 home runs. They have punched out 109 times in 10 games. This is not a good offensive team. That being said, they have a couple guys to watch. Jake Schaffner, he's their leadoff guy, hitting .436, leads the team. Noah Gordon leads the team in RBI and in home run. He's tied for leading home run. Other than that, they have 2 guys who have played and started all 10 games. You're going to see a lot of interchanging in that lineup because they're hitting below 200 as a team and trying to find a combo. On the mound, it ain't much better. The Bison support a team ERA, of 11.1. In 77 innings, they have walked 58 and struck out 60. Yes, you heard that right. They have walked 58 and struck out 60. They have almost walked the same amount of hitters that they have struck out, and the opponent is hitting .358 against North Dakota State. Albeit, tough schedule, but those are some ugly, ugly numbers from this ball club. The one thing they do actually pretty well is field the ball, and that's surprising considering they play in Fargo, North Dakota, and probably haven't been outside since the summer. But they're fielding .978 as a club, which is not something that you normally see from these northern teams coming down. But outside of that, it's a whole lot of bad, y'all. And these should be 2 games that LSU can name their score. And you don't often see that in baseball because baseball is a crazy game. And who knows? Crazier things have happened. But when I look at the way LSU's offense is playing, and I see a team that has walked 58 hitters and struck out 60, say, man, that's a bad recipe for the offense you're about to face in LSU. Same goes for a team hitting .358. LSU's offense is on fire, and that should continue against this North Dakota State pitching staff. I never want to sit there and speak in any type of absolutes when it comes to baseball because it is such a crazy game, but my goodness. This LSU is an overwhelming favorite here in this series. Offensively, for North Dakota State going up against LSU's pitchers. Again, this is a staff that's been pretty taxed. We're about to get into how LSU builds it out as we close the show here. But I'm sorry, I blanked. This is a lineup that LSU should be able to really attack. And strikes are going to be first and foremost key. You walked 19 guys this past weekend in Frisco, hit 3 others. That's 22 free passes. That has to stop. And you're going to see some guys on the mound that you haven't seen in a while. And I'm actually excited. And there's some guys that I want to talk about that I actually want to see get back out there right now. Because while you're trying to pare down your weekend and see who can take those last couple of spots, you also need your midweek inning eaters to emerge for this season. And this is going to be a really good opportunity against North Dakota State. So how does LSU craft this on the mound? Because it's like, look, they just played a 5-game week. Now they have another one. And at the end of that weekend in Frisco, you could see staff looked a little tired, a little taxed. It's actually not that difficult to craft this together. Connor Ware is going to start one of these games. If I had to guess, I'd say he starts Tuesday night. And the weather should all be cleared out. You should be good to go. So if Ware starts, I mean, he hasn't pitched. That'd be almost a week. He didn't pitch since Wednesday against DBU. You can maybe extend him a little bit more and get him ready, set, maybe for one more midweek outing against Xavier, and then cut that one short and have him ready to go against Missouri in conference play. But I think Ware will probably go for you on Tuesday. After that, you have an opportunity to get some guys on the mound that we haven't seen in a while. Grant Fontenot has not pitched since that first game of the doubleheader against Omaha. It's time for him to get back out on the mound. And this is a prime opportunity for him to do that against North Dakota State. And I want to see him back out there on the mound because the last time we saw him, it obviously didn't go well. And he needs to get his confidence back because that's a guy who could absolutely be an innings eater for you at some point this season. I want to see Cade Woods get thrown right back out there. We've seen him twice. He had one really good outing and one really bad outing. But it's really good arm talent and another guy who could absolutely be an innings eater for you. Let's get him back out there. You haven't seen Jacob Myers since Monday against Nichols. He's going to pitch over the next 2 days. So those are three. Fontenot and Myers are 2 guys right there that you didn't see over the weekend that can absolutely pitch here and give you some length and hopefully get right, against a North Dakota State. Kason Evans hasn't pitched since Friday. So if you want to get him some action over the next 2 days, you can do that. Gavin Guidry. I'm hopeful Guidry is back midweek so we can see him get out there, and that's going to add some length. But, I mean, Maverick Rizzi should be hot and available for one of these next 2 games. And I want to see him get back out there because it hasn't been good the last 2 times out. And I want to see him regain some confidence. That's a guy right now that is tied for the team lead in appearances. And Jay Johnson said that he might, that Rizzi might lead the team in appearances this year. Well, he's going to have to get back on the horse in order to do that. But I think with the addition of Fontenot and Myers back into this, that gives you some more length, some more depth here in your pitching staff, setting up for this 5-game week. LSU had games that they had to go out there and win. So they used what they perceive to be their best guys, their top guys right now in the bullpen. And that's how we can arrive at those conclusions of, okay, this is who they're leaning to right now. But albeit all the innings you threw this past week, you got all of them coming up again, and you're actually in a better spot than we would think. I mean, again, you can craft it out there. If you can get through, a Tuesday night against North Dakota State with some combination of Connor Ware, Grant Fontenot, Jacob Myers, maybe Cade Woods, and Maverick Rizzi, well, then you could potentially have Guidry and Evans and all those guys raring to go, binge, hot, and ready to go, Jaden Newt for Wednesday. That's the other thing, and I touched on it a little bit earlier. I want to see Jaden Newt get an extended outing here this week, whether it be against North Dakota State or Northern Alabama. I just want to see him get a little bit more. So with the addition of some of those guys you haven't seen in a week, and even in some cases, like Grant Fontenot, more than that, you've got plenty of pitching to make it through this week. Plenty of pitching to make it through this week. It'll get started Tuesday night, 6:30. I was going to say first night game at the box this season, second night game at the box because of the Nichols game. But they're into nighttime baseball now at Alec Box Stadium, Skip Bertman Field. 4 of the 5 games, home games this week, are at night. So we're back into this March. It's warming up. We're back into that portion of the schedule that I know everybody loves so much. All right, that's going to wrap it up. Y'all go ahead and smash the like, get subscribed on the way out. It's greatly appreciated. Follow on social media and be here next time for more. It's Musso at the Box, presented by Got Lit Light Installers.